Hello.
Hi, dear ones. How are you?
We're good. How are
That's
you?
great.
Here we are.
I miss you guys.
Missed you too.
Yeah.
Life hasn't been the same without you.
Well, I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping
Yes,
it's
much
good.
better.
That's
Much better.
I'm so happy. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
You're
No
welcome.
problem.
Thank
So I
you.
really appreciate it. So this is the deal. I'm creating a coaching program, and it's going to be webinar based, 12 weeks. And essentially, I'm going to be pulling people through the kinds of things that I pulled you guys through, but on a weekly basis. So what I'm trying to do is create some promo video to help encourage people to believe in what I do and the type of work I do and the way that I do it.
Okay.
And you guys were so freaking awesome. Like,
We thought you were actually.
oh, I appreciate that. But you guys were like, you got it. Like, you were so open and so ready for the work. And I saw such an improvement in you guys. It was just amazing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to ask you guys about where you were before coaching and how bad had things gotten.
Okay. Shall I go first?
Mm-hmm.
They got to rock bottom, I think. I discovered about my codependency issues because of having my father the way he was.
Right.
And Mike had got sick and tired of me and my behaviour, and we just weren't getting on.
Mm-hmm.
We were just going over the same old ground, same old arguments. Right. But we thought we still wanted to be together. Right. So we realised that we had to do something, and we couldn't do it on our own. Mm-hmm. But we didn't want to go to counselling. So we started with your videos and then went from there, and both decided that's what we wanted to do.
Had you two tried traditional therapies before, counselors and things like that?
Years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your experience?
Well, it didn't work for us for lots of different reasons. I think we've been to marriage counselling, but it was too specific. It didn't look at the bigger picture. It would just pick on one particular issue and sort of hone in on that. And actually, in hindsight, looking back on that, it was the wrong issue.
Wow.
And neither of us were able to be honest about anything in that sort of counselling environment. That's very significant to us now. But the other counselling, the other psychological help we've been given was during the adoption process of one of our children, and we actually found that largely quite destructive, and it often made us feel worse about ourselves than better.
What do you mean? Like, what happened with that?
Well, it's what didn't happen,
okay.
I suppose. Because again, we were at quite a desperate stage in life. We were having lots of problems with the adoption. That was very challenging. It was a new thing for us, and we needed help. We were going around in circles again,
right.
And the help that we sought kept us in that circle.
Wow.
And it would just pick on an issue and would keep us there, and we would be held there. And it wasn't really until we broke away from the circle of the help that they were offering to us, or the help that they thought they were offering to us, that we actually made progress ourselves with our son. And that's really what gave us a little bit of a resistance towards traditional counselling. Yeah. And started Jackie specifically looking for something new. Because, at that time, we weren't aware what the issues were. We always felt that the issues were us.
Wow.
Actually, we both did. I wasn't right for Jackie, Jackie wasn't right for me. That's what we both felt. We never said that.
But we didn't really believe that. That was the thing. We were searching for something, but we didn't know what. And all the traditional stuff was very, patronising, really. And packaging you up in a little box, and you had to try and fit into it. Yeah. Your approach is the complete opposite, and that's what appeals to us, I guess.
You're the SWAT team of psychology, probably. And actually, the first stun grenades that go in seem to sort of
They
focus
work.
you
I'm
in.
like the Marines. I'm like the Marines, you know? Like. But yeah, I had one client tell me, like, she said, wow, you just ripped the Band-Aid off. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. I ripped the bed. You want to get on with healing, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
sure.
It's
You
the
wanna
only
get on
instead
with
of
healing.
faffing around like we did before. It was always faffing around, and in the end, we would just say, "All right, we've done enough now," because we were getting nowhere.
Yeah, so tell me about the kind of frustration that you two had relating to one another.
Oh, we haven't got time for that. Do you want me?
I think the big
Mike,
issue.
we're better now. Just for Mike, remember, we're better now.
Okay.
We're better now. We're better now. This is just for the promo video.
Okay.
Cut more words, Mike. Cut more words.
You're so cute.
I think the big thing was that we didn't listen to each other properly.
Mm-hmm.
We both felt that we weren't heard properly, and that's the biggest difference, I think, now in our life, that we trust each other to tell each other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what you've helped us to do, to see that we don't have to live our life we didn't think we were fighting, but I guess we always were internally fighting, thinking the other should know what was wrong.
Yes.
We tell each other now.
Yeah, so both of you had issues with not feeling seen as children.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a lot of fear surrounded, and I always say it's double jeopardy. So a child has this feeling of fear, and then if they dare express it, then they're shamed for expressing it, or chastised for expressing it, or everyone's ignoring this emotion, that's the double razor. That's a double-edged razor. So I have a feeling, but no one cares that I have this feeling. So now the brain is flagging emotion as painful. And when the brain, remember the pain versus pleasure principle, the brain is designed to keep you moving towards pleasure and away from fear. So it's like this human being's brain is at war with itself, at war with its own psyche. We're human beings, and by nature we're supposed to feel. But the subconscious mind has been taught, don't feel. And so as a man, you think that, well, Jackie should just know what a man wants and what I need. And as a woman, my husband should just know how I feel. I'm home with the kids all day, And so, and because we're hoping that person will just read our minds so we don't have to be exposed, we don't have to be vulnerable, and we don't have to be shot down. And so we go into marriage therapy complaining because he leaves the towels on the floor. And he doesn't hear me. He doesn't care. That's not what's going on.
Yeah, that's exactly. It was almost like you go and give a catalogue of complaints about your other half, and then they're going, "Oh, but what do you think? And what do you do in return?"
Right.
And it's not about that at all.
Right.
So
what was it? What was it about anything that I said? What was that first breakthrough moment for either of you?
For me, it was when you were talking about your childhood, and although it wasn't the same as my childhood, it raised the same kind of issues, I think. And it was like, it made me cry, actually, because I felt here was somebody who actually knew what I was thinking and feeling, although I'd never really told anyone about it. So then Mike started to watch it.
Awesome.
And he thought it was very valuable as well. And it went from there. It was just the fact that somebody out in that world for the first time in my life understood me. That's how I felt.
So what happened was, in your brain was, suddenly there was less fear associated to the feeling, because there was somebody out there that could articulate it and validate it. And empathize with it. So now suddenly the brain experienced less stress and more freedom and more pleasure with feeling. With feeling. So it's almost like being frozen in time, and then someone pulling you out of the freezer and say, "It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's thaw out.
Yeah.
Let's one emotion at a time. Let's do this." Mike, while we were coaching, what was the first breakthrough moment?
I think for me, it was after the first discussion that we had together. I left discussion thinking that I wasn't as weird as I thought I was.
Awesome.
And because actually throughout our life, throughout our whole marriage really, we've gone out of our way to be sometimes quite destructive to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And those things stick in your mind forever, for the rest of your life probably.
Mm-hmm.
So you tend to live around those rules.
Mm-hmm.
And my belief was that, I was some strange creature dwelling in a dark place in this world that was causing Jackie a whole load of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think, well, I'm not really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, after that first discussion we had together, it's like, and I think I said it before, it's like a light bulb going on in a room, in a dark room,
Mm-hmm.
and you suddenly look around and you think, oh, actually, I am normal, this is life, this is just part of life.
Right.
So actually then you fit in, you lose that sort of separation
Mm-hmm.
from the rest of the world, because you're not this weird creature sitting in a corner all on your own. You're actually just part of humanity, really.
Yeah.
And then you get on with it, and then you start addressing the problems.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, the first big breakthrough for me from our discussions together was when you said about communicating absolutely truthfully together.
Yes.
Without, I mean, I think you used the term use cotton wool words, and that's important.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, being honest together was the most important thing.
Even if you didn't get,
yeah,
even if I would make Mike angry by what I said,
Yeah.
I had to learn to say it, and you had to learn to say it,
Yeah.
even if it might upset me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're learning to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's made a huge difference.
because the truth is what it is.
Yeah.
It
You
it
can
is
handle
like,
it, can't you?
It's so interesting. I think one of the most destructive things that people in our society say, and they don't even realize they're saying it, is, don't feel that way.
yeah.
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 That's like saying, Jackie, don't have blue eyes.
Yeah.
Don't feel that way. But I do feel this way.
Yes.
The goal is
Yeah.
to teach people to assimilate how they feel, accept how they feel, validate how they feel, and use their guidance and as a way to help them navigate the conversation. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, it needs to be said, communication is an art.
Yeah.
I can say, I love you. What am I communicating?
Yeah.
Or I can say, I really love you.
Mm-hmm.
Tone, pitch, the vibration, intention.
Yeah.
It's from the heart.
Yes.
So, our tongues are very closely related to our heart. They're almost connected. You think about how deep the tongue is, think about where the heart sits, and I'm pretty sure that as an embryo is developing, first it's the heart and then it's the tongue. So it's very interesting. So everything comes from the heart. So when a mother says, I love you, go sit down. That's coming from her heart. She's irritated, she's annoyed, she's frustrated. She might be a little resentful, she might be tired, she might be aggravated. And her brain is saying, but I said I love you, just go sit down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really the vibration of her heart.
Mm-hmm.
When a wife says to her husband, what's wrong? And he says, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
That's nonverbal communication is more important than verbal communication. How we feel and how we communicate as couples is everything. And
Yes.
so I think you guys just really needed to learn to speak your truth and be okay. And also know that Jackie wasn't going to run out the door. And that's when we first started, and Mike wasn't going to run out the door. We first started saying, are we in agreement? Are we saving this marriage? Because I need to know.
Yeah.
We need to all be on the same page.
Exactly.
So,
And that was where we started from.
Yes.
Do we want to save this, or are we going to go ask? And we did deliberate on that for weeks,
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
we? Even before that.
Yeah.
And we realised that, of course, it was worth saving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But actually
especially,
now-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We just look on it now. It's like almost like a new marriage, or it's
It
a new
is.
start, and it's a bit strange sometimes, but it's exciting too.
It's so exciting because now you're actually showing up in the marriage as yourselves.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So now when Mike says, Jackie, I love you, it's different.
It is different.
because Jackie's being Jackie. So now you know Mike really loves Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When Jackie says to you, Mike, I love you. That's like when a little boy hears that his mother loves him. You know?
Yeah.
Really, it's like down to your toes because I have been vulnerable enough to show Jackie who I really am.
Yeah.
So now when my wife says, I love you, I know she loves me because I'm showing up as me.
Mm.
Prior to now, we're showing up as altered versions of ourselves, not being truthful because we're afraid to tell the truth.
Yes.
It's what we thought we should have been, maybe.
Yeah, I remember specifically with you guys is, for me, what sticks out in my mind while we were coaching was when you two saw each other as 7-year-olds that had similar wounds. You just never realized it. Feeling unseen and feeling afraid to tell your truth. And suddenly, Jackie made more sense. And we talked about, and is it okay to talk on tape about your dad? Okay.
Yeah.
Jackie, you sure? Okay, Jackie.
Sure.
Okay. Jackie talking about when she opened her mouth as a child and being chastised, and how being angry was the only way that she could protect herself. And so Jackie was having a difficult time expressing herself, in a gentle way, because anger was the only way that she could protect herself when she felt vulnerable. And so she didn't mean it. She didn't want it to come out that way. But, being afraid to feel exposed, and you felt that from your wife. You felt she's hard to get to know. She's hard to, she's hard to figure out. And coming from your background, not feeling like your experiences were worthy. So it was hard for you to reach out and say, this makes me feel uncomfortable. And so we have 2 very wounded children. Different reasons, but similar wounds. And that's what attracted you guys to each other in the first place. And you just represent everything that's awesome about coaching a couple that is really committed to the process. You're just awesome.
Well, thank you. Thanks. But for us, Lisa, you asked about any specifics about what we discussed together. What I particularly liked was, and we still refer to this quite often, it's the combination of the psychological aspects of the discussion and the scientific as well. And I particularly like that, not because I don't need things proven in science, but it's good to understand. And it's good to understand the chemistry of the brain and the realities of what changes things, and adrenaline and the cortisols and all those things. It's great to know that, and it's common sense. And then you think, oh yeah, when that happens, 3 hours later, we have a stomach ache or we feel shaking, and now we know why. Yeah. And it's just good to know those things. You're not weird. You're not strange. It's just fact.
Yeah. It's in part of the coaching program that I am creating is teaching people the basics of the brain. Now, the reason that's important is because we're both right-brained and left-brained. So we're logical and emotional. So to just have intellectual conversations and not explain the biology of the brain, why can't I remember? Why can't I remember? You can't remember because when you were traumatized, the limbic system flooded with cortisol, and that affects the amygdala. You can't remember.
Yeah.
It affects memory and the hippocampus. You can't remember. So there are certain things that you will not be able to remember.
Yeah.
It's weird because when we used to have a lot of rows, if we were rowing, Mike would want to talk about it and get to the end of it and figure it all out. My brain would just go completely blank. I couldn't even think about what we were arguing about. And I'm still a bit like that. There's lots of things I don't remember.
So part of what's still happening to you, and it'll be helpful for you to understand, Mike, is that you're being triggered back to situations in which you felt very, very exposed and vulnerable. And so it could be, now with your dad, it could be fearing losing his approval, Mike's approval. Fear making him angry. Fear being abandoned. Fear being not good enough. And so that's a very deep trigger for you. And so when you're having a discussion that might get a little heated with Mike, I want you to pay attention to the idea that that's probably PTSD. You know, I'm having this cortisol flood my brain right now, and it's hard for me to stay focused. Take a couple of deep breaths. You know, Mike, and if you're, depends on where you are, but if you start to see her go glaze like a deer in headlights, literally that's what's happening. Like,
you have seen that.
Mm-hmm. I've mentioned that to Jackie a couple of times.
So
he said, "I've lost you. You're not there."
Yeah. So that's PTSD. You're actually witnessing somebody have a PTSD experience where the cortisol is coming, and what's happening is the brain is being triggered back to a point in her history where she felt the exact same way.
Okay.
Now, what's happening is when that happens, if you're not careful, Jackie, and you don't stay highly conscious, so what I want you to do is I want you to say, okay, this is PTSD.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is PTSD. Observe it. That will help you detach from it. Okay, I'm feeling like I'm 3 years old again. My brain's just trying to protect me. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit threatened, but that's okay. Mike's not my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Take a deep breath. I can do this. Stay focused, Jackie. Stay focused. Just see it. And if you can do that, then the deer in headlights look, it'll happen maybe for a second, but you can pull yourself back from that.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is be aware of when it's happening and call it out. Okay? And Mike, if you see the deer lights, back off, say, Jackie, it's okay. Literally, she's traveling back in time. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. We're traveling back in time, and our brain is really just being triggered right back. And what's triggering it is the feeling that she's experiencing that is so reminiscent, that is being triggered by the experience of feeling, I'm going to lose his approval.
Okay.
We're having an argument. It wasn't safe to argue with Dad. It still isn't. It's not safe to have a different opinion.
Exactly.
You get thrown out with the bathwater.
Mm.
You're disposed of when you can't agree with Dad. And so when she's in fear of losing your approval, part of that is kicking in. And so if you two are both aware of it, you could just say, Jackie, it's okay. Jackie, it's okay.
You know, when we face times like that now, we've developed this little bit of humour between us to try and communicate it to each other. It's just a little joke thing. I won't tell you what it is because it's just between us. But we know what we mean, now. Because if Jackie's acting a bit strangely, or if I'm looking a bit dark, we'll both do it to each other, and then so we make a little joke out of it, and then we say, "Are we connected?"
I love it.
And so we got the opportunity then to give an honest answer. Oh, thanks. That's what we were waiting for.
Got a star. Very good. So talk to me a little bit about, day to day, how has your life improved since learning these skills and learning more about the brain and communication? How has your life improved?
Wow.
Tremendously, because when we first stopped with you, I think we were having a little panic attack and thinking, oh my God, we're on our own now. Our little helper's gone, and we were on our own. And I think every few days something would flare up. Now we're noticing it's getting much further apart and less severe. And generally we're beginning to feel human again.
Wonderful.
We have been through some very, very dark weeks, even before we came to you. And but each week has improved from when we full on started to deal with it. And we're just noticing that life's just more normal now. We still don't want to go out and mix with people. We just stay home on our own or go out on our own. And we just cannot mix with anybody at the moment. That's just how we feel. But we found that we are more connected, that we're enjoying life more, and that we're looking after each other a lot more.
Beautiful.
How we should have been. And it's like we've made up for lost time.
Yes.
I got quite upset because I just thought if I'd have figured all this out years ago, none of this would have happened. But then now we realise we couldn't have. Nobody would have pointed it out to us before when we were having therapies or whatever. And so now is obviously the right time.
Yes.
It was the time for us to move on. It was the time to meet you. It was the time for it all to come together and for our new life to start. And it freaked Mike out because I think he thought that wiped out all the other 33 years that we'd had.
Right.
34. But I think I think he's coming to terms. I know he's coming. I think he's coming to terms with that. I felt relieved I was out of this prison of my head.
Yeah.
And I think Mike thought, well, what's she so happy about? Because I've just lost 34 years. But for me, I've lost 58 years, but now I'm gaining every day. And it's it's like being freed from a cage or something. As severe as that. It's just so wonderful.
Remember, we also talked about you're both going to have different reactions, emotional reactions to recovery.
Yeah.
And we have to appreciate each other's reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Mike felt a little bit of grief, and that's very, very normal, Mike.
Okay.
What does that mean about the 34 years?
Mm.
And it's a lot to let go of, because when you're a passive codependent and you're holding on to all this anger and you don't feel heard, versus the codependent who's very verbal about, how she feels or he feels, right? When you're kind of like holding on to this resentment, it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel less vulnerable, and then all of a sudden you have a couple of coaching sessions with me.
And our lives turn around.
Yeah, and now, but then it's like, well, what do I do with all that stuff that I was holding on to? I just let it go. Like, where does it go? And it's would you say that that's what was going on? Like,
it was. I hadn't really found out a way of explaining it. It was. I think I mentioned it to you at the time. It was like a grief, as though we had died, or we had got divorced, and we just started a new relationship together post divorce. Yet we know each other, but we don't. It was.
Cool.
And for me, that was fantastic. Yes. And for Mike, it was the most scary thing ever.
Yeah. And so what we have a female brain and a male brain that, experience the same experience, but differently.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have, and you know what? There are 7 billion people on the planet. Everybody is entitled to their own unique experience. Mm-hmm. And when we really love someone authentically, we appreciate their experience. We have empathy for their experience. So as the wife who's like, this is great, yeah. And we have our husband who's like, wait a minute, I don't feel so great. He needs some coddling. Mike, it's going to be okay. Meanwhile, you're tapping your feet like, I just want to go outside now,
Yeah.
But we have to.
You got it.
Yes, we have to appreciate our partner's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what feeling seen is all about. And we go right back to childhood, which is what every child needed in the first place, was to feel seen and to feel valid. So moving forward, it's really, really important for you guys to keep this momentum going. It's about never, ever forgetting that the key element is empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
The key element is empathy. So when we were supposed to be loved unconditionally as children, and we were supposed to feel that infinity loop from our mother to our father, and father, from their heart to our heart. We were supposed to feel like we weren't even supposed to say, Mom, I feel, or Dad, I feel. It should have been sensed, and it should have been taken care of, and it should have been appreciated. And what that does psychologically is that teaches the brain that this person in here matters. Mm-hmm. What's going on in here is valid, and I need to pay attention to that. And I know that because the big people in my life pay attention to how I feel. So now when we go out into the world, we're moving from heart space. So we try on a career, it doesn't feel right. I don't think I want to do that anymore. And we're okay. And we keep trying on careers until we find one that fits, like a good pair of shoes. We don't stay in careers that make us uncomfortable and think that's just the way life is. We listen to our hearts. When we're dealing with one another and we decide to commit to a relationship, we make sure that when our spouse is feeling something, that we're in tune, we're attuned to our spouse. Jackie, what's going on? That is beautiful. Mike, what's happening? We don't ignore our partners. But we don't try to fix it either. We don't try to take away from
Yeah.
their feeling, and we don't try to add to what they're feeling. We just hold that space for them to be able to experience that feeling. I couldn't sleep last night. Oh, that sounds terrible. Why couldn't you sleep? Oh, it's just, going over and over with things in my head. What kinds of things? We're inquisitive. We validate the emotion that we see showing up in our spouse. You seem really troubled by that. We get the spouse to talk about how they feel. And suddenly we have an infinity loop to our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally feel that connection that we so every human being longs for. It's only going to get better, guys.
Yeah.
We're so lucky. At the moment, we're still not sleeping very well. We're sleeping longer now, but we usually wake in the middle of the night. So now we just reach out and just hold each other's hand until we go back to sleep, or we might not go back to sleep. But that's what we do now. So we're in contact.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference.
That's right.
It's just like what we do now.
Yeah.
It's just
4 o'clock in the morning was our danger point when we weren't sleeping.
Yeah. No,
So,
you just reach out and find a hand. It's nice, isn't it? So
it's a wonderful thing. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
You're talking about feeling seen, which every child needed, and so now, and what I think what worked with you guys was, you saw yourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw yourself as a child. Oh, of course, this is why I became the man I became, and that's okay. It could not have been any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, you saw yourself as a little girl, and understood why you became the person that you became, and it couldn't have been any other way.
no.
It just couldn't have been. So you learn to forgive it. You have self-compassion. You have empathy for self. And when a woman and a man can see themselves, that's when they can see their partner.
Mm. Agreed.
Yeah, is what we've been doing. We've been seeing each other as children and ourselves as children, and feeling compassion for the both of them.
That's awesome. Do you guys have any pictures of yourselves as children?
Yeah.
Okay, I would really like the both of you.
Do you want us to send them to you?
Well, yeah, I would like that for my future
Sure.
videos. But also, what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to get a frame, and I have mine in my office. And what you do is you keep a picture of the little boy that you were and the little girl that you were around the same age. Then what I would like you to do is find comparable photos where you're about the same size in the photo. Cut it out, and then make one picture of the two of you in it.
Okay.
So it's like 7-year-old Mike standing next to 7-year-old Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that will help you remember that inside both of you are wounds.
Yeah.
And they're similar.
Mm.
Okay? And that'll help you take care, because inside of Mike Jackie is a 7-year-old boy who didn't feel heard. And inside of Jackie is a little 7-year-old girl who didn't feel heard and was afraid to express herself. You too, you were afraid. And if you two can keep that vision in your head of each other, it's going to be so much easier for you to continue to be gentle with one another. Yay! I'm so excited for you!
Exciting!
So, Lisa, the big difference for me is that there is like a validity to our relationship now. Before, it was like I felt it was dying. You know, anything we did just was pointless.
Wow.
Because it didn't create anything positive, and we were like on a downward staircase that wasn't really going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, I think from our discussions together and from what we've agreed to do together, we've got a fairly slow elevator. It's not an express elevator.
That's okay.
Yeah, but at least we're going up.
All the time.
Yeah, and it's real. It's not untrue. It's real, and it's honest, and it's true. Like it or not, we're dealing with the truth now, and that makes such a difference. It's got such a value to it than it had before, much more.
The truth really is that you two have what everybody's looking for.
Oh, wow.
An authentic relationship.
We're actually feeling that now. We are, because you mentioned at one point that actually, we'll look at our friends' relationships and families.
It just depresses.
Yeah, and there are not many people who we would say have got this level. I mean, this sounds very patronising to other people, but actually, they don't seem to have that level of connection And
Full
you're right, and we
commitment.
feel really, I don't know, gifted with that now. And it's like a start, it's a new start, but with the same people, you know.
Yeah.
The same people but different.
The same but different.
Absolutely. And you're right, Mike. The old relationship is dead. It'll
Yeah.
never be like that again.
No.
You know, and it's
No.
okay to grieve that and be a little wobbly about that.
Yeah.
It is okay. It's a very natural response.
That still comes and goes, that grieving.
Yes. That's
But it's
very
nothing
natural.
like it was.
That's
And we
awesome.
talk about it now, and, you know.
You know,
Because, you know, the other thing, because we've sort of, we've put our hearts in number one place instead of brain, we are so emotional about anything.
We could cry at anything.
Yeah, I'm not joking. We can
love it.
watch a TV program, and I've never done that,
I love it.
and we're off, you know.
My husband's more emotional too lately.
Oh,
Is it? It's nice, isn't it? It's really nice.
You know, I think of it this way. I think about the totality of a human being as imagine a bullseye, right? And you have the outer circle. That's the emotional body. And then there's a second circle, and that represents the physical body. And then the smaller circle in the middle represents the brain, the psyche. And so as you evolve, you get more and more in touch with the emotional body, the ethereal body.
Oh,
And
okay.
so you guys are moving out of the brain, moving out of your programming.
Mm. Yeah.
You're moving out of your programming, and you're in touch with the emotional body. And now your higher self is really controlling the mind. The mind is no longer controlling you.
Yeah. I think we feel that way now. Most of the time.
And then things happen to remind us of what's happened to us. We'll watch something on the TV and we'll just go, just like that. It's like it was meant to be there.
Love it.
Lisa, you know, we mentioned to you that we're taking a holiday in Miami shortly in April. We've been watching an old it's American TV series called Dexter.
Yes.
Have you ever? Yeah, about.
Yes.
Well, it's about me.
Wow.
And us.
Well,
even though he's a murderer.
Jackie's actually not a serial killer.
Yes, I'm glad that you're relating to that.
Totally.
It's
And Mike's
unbelievable.
like, oh.
We were looking to see if you were on the production crew or something.
Well, I
It was-
appreciate that.
Every time we watch it, there's something on it that gives us that moment.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And they say quotes that are pertinent to us.
It's awesome.
It's just incredible.
It's awesome. So you're watching someone who's, consumed by childhood programming.
Yeah, and his sister, who was exactly this, because of the narcissistic father.
Absolutely. Very good. I am so I could not be prouder of the two of you.
Oh, well, we've got you to thank, and we have. We couldn't have done it.
I tell everybody, I'm just a guide. I'm just a guide. I just held the flashlight.
Well, you held it very well and
Thanks.
shone it in the right place.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I know where to look.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know where to
and
look.
it was the time, wasn't it? It was the
Yeah.
right time.
Yes. And I'm just, what I really love is that you represent what's possible for a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So men will see this mic and think, I could have a really intimate, authentic relationship with my wife and be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, and as a wife, I can really be open with my husband and he can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to be afraid. And this is really manageable. It's awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And this is the first time in my life I've ever been able to be honest like this.
It's awesome.
With a person. So for me, it's like major news.
Well, namaste, Jackie. I see you.
Namaste.
I honor you.
Thank you.
Namaste,
And
Mike.
Well,
thanks for
loving it.
seeing us in the first place.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me, and reach out to
Pleasure.
me anytime.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, we'll keep you up to date with our progress
Yes. I'm so
from
excited.
time to time.
Love you guys.
Love you. Thanks.
Happy days.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Codependents don't feel comfortable telling the truth. Because we have been programmed to worry more about others than ourselves, we often deny self, and in doing so, lie to ourselves and others about who we are and what we need. Today, I will practice being honest, at least with myself. I will not allow myself to say yes when I mean no, or no when I mean yes. I can tell the truth. I can nurture self. I can be good to me. I am worthy. I am good. I am enough. Om.